Hello, Graham Vincent, violin maker and musician. I had a comment on the last video from a chap called Garth. Basically said, I have no trouble with chisels and planes, but I cannot get my violin knives sharp enough. Could you help? I'll do my best. I'll do my best. So I've just grabbed a few of my violin making knives here. Fairly typical in as much as two are ones that three are ones I bought. So that's an eBay special, described as a bridge knife. That is an eBay special design, described as a violin maker's knife. This is a commercially available violin maker's knife. And this is one I made, which is a wood screw with the end beaten flat and sharpened. So let's have a look at all of these. First things first, you'll notice they're all curved bevel, unlike the sort of plain blade. And that's what I'm going to be talking about now, because to me, that's the most useful kind of blade for violin making. But I do mention the plain blade because that honing angle is about 25 degrees, and that is a good balance between having a very fine, thin blade which will cut into things easily, and having a sort of a blade which has sufficient strength so that it isn't falling to pieces all the time. So we're generally looking for the cutting edge to be about 25 degrees or thereabouts. This is all fairly rough, okay? So let's pick one of these to sharpen. How about this one? Okay, I haven't sharpened it for a fair old time. Tell you what we'll do. There's a diamond stone. That is now blunt, basically, because I have just run the blade straight over that. So from this point, I've got to make it sharp. So the way that I tend to do this when I'm doing these by hand, which is about half the time, is it's a fairly obvious, fairly simple, fairly straightforward thing. Remember, these are very sharp. Don't go ploughing the blade into your hand. Basically, sharpening towards the edge. I'm going to have to change the position of this so it actually works. Oh, that's a bit of a better way to demonstrate it. Yeah, so you're pushing the knife towards the edge, so to speak. You're cutting with the edge rather than away from the edge. And refer to that, look at it and see, where the marks on the stone are, so you can see which bit you're cutting. As yet, I haven't taken anything off the actual edge there, because the edge is it's at quite a steep angle down here, a bit finer at the tip. This is sort of fairly fine diamond stone. It's an eBay special. It's not terribly expensive. This is literally a wood screw with a blade beaten onto the end of it and then screwed into the handle. It has been hardened, but I will say that it feels like it could be heat treated again to make it a harder blade than it actually is. It's fairly soft for a knife, this one. So I work from both sides so that you don't build up a massive swarf, because each time the swarf builds up on this side, when you're cutting like that, as soon as you turn it over on the first stroke, the swarf is taken away. Now that should feel pretty sharp now, but you've not finished. The next stage is to use a metal polish, and this is an old favourite for a lot of people. What I've got here is just a piece of wood. It's a bit of softwood in this case, with a bit of leather glued to it. I got a bit carried away. I sort of wrapped the leather around the end and poked it into a slot there, and also put a slot in there to house it at this end, so it didn't pick up so much. But having said that, I lent it to someone who then used it the wrong way and stripped a load of the leather off the front, so I do actually need to redo this. But anyway, so we've got this piece of leather, this leather strop with some polish on it, and now, unlike when you were actually sharpening on the diamond stone, sharpen away from the edge, so to speak, so you're running off the edge, because otherwise you will just hack big chunks out of your leather. And you're just polishing it, basically. You will see, I mean, this particular polish is quite good because it's a white polish, and of course when you're polishing metal you see it go a grey and then a progressively more and more dark grey as more and more metal particles are sort of cut off by the polish. The other side as well. Now the reason I'm doing this by hand rather than on any fancy grindstone is that to do it this way you need to spend about £7 on eBay, a few quid on a tube of that, any old bit of waste leather that you can find, and a piece of wood will suffice to do this. So I don't feel that we've financially kind of closed the door on anyone here. And it doesn't have to be a diamond stone. You could do this with any sort of whetstone or oil stone, but let's be honest, the diamond stone is going to be better. And so what have you got then? Let's have a look. Moment of truth. Not good enough yet. Not good enough. I mean, it's sharp, but it's not. Actually, near the tip, it is pretty sharp. Okay, so I'll just do a little bit more with the polish on that, because I would like it to be a bit sharper than that. I mean, what you're looking for is at least as sharp as a scalpel, you know. Not only am I showing you how to do this with very cheap materials, but of course the knife, this particular knife I'm resharpening here is made with a wood screw and a bit of waste timber. Yeah, it's all right. It's not the best, but it'll do for that. Yeah, it's sharp enough. So there we go. One very quick method of sharpening. Perhaps you ought to talk about why these have curved bevels. I'm not sure whether Garth is sharpening his blades with curved bevels or straight bevels. This is what I'd recommend. I mean, I have done a sort of a video on sharpening generally. That might be worth watching. I'll put a link in the description. It's funny. It's worth mentioning. I seem to have got 3,000 followers, and I've been wondering for a while, you know, how to improve the channel and what changes to make and all the rest of it to make it more interesting for people. And I'm not trying to run some sort of TV network or anything. So the decision I've come to basically is that if 3,000 people kind of like it as it is at the moment, I'm just going to carry on doing more of the same, really. So it's going to be, you know, me showing you what I'm making, what I'm getting on with at the time, and also some tool related stuff, because one of the things that comes up fairly regularly is people aren't in a position, aren't happy to spend, you know, a massive amount of money on tools. And watching some people on YouTube, you would get the impression you need to spend thousands and thousands of pounds. You don't. You really don't. So let's think of this as perhaps the first tool that you should make. I will put a link in the description below to the video about making this particular knife. It's a really good, useful starting point for any workshop that's making musical instruments, to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 knives. How many have I got? Hang on a minute. Yeah, not that many. I've got this little one that I made. That's another wood screw. That's fantastic. That was a really beautiful, sharp little knife. Yeah, just a mix of them. They all have different characteristics. They're different sizes, obviously. This is the finest blade in terms of it's a really quite shallow angle, so it's quite sensitive. You can't go hacking into things because you'll just break the blade, but it means you can go through some things like a hot knife through butter. Anyway, I'm starting to waffle a bit. I hope that was useful. Look after yourselves. See you soon. Cheers, folks. Bye. Just a little bonus bit on the end, basically. So that's how I do it by hand. However, there's a really cheap, effective way of using a machine to do this. Let me show you. So these are my power mops, so to speak. That one is just a grindstone, which, if you, underneath there are 4 bolts holding the base onto the motor. If you take those out and then turn the motor around, then you can actually set it up so, get the idea, so that it spins apparently the wrong way, so to speak, but that's the right way for polishing things. So on this one we've got a traditional mop, but this is what I wanted to show you. It's just a disc of MDF. And if you combine that with some abrasive, let me pull up my sleeves and let's do this. These are potentially quite dangerous. I'm doing this with one hand, so if it looks awkward, that's because I'm not really interested in making it look fluid. I'm interested in making this safe for me under the circs. So we get the abrasive wax compound. And it's very possible to overheat quite quickly for this, so don't keep anything on there too long. That's it. But now this is off that sharpener there, basically. So that is such a fast way of doing it, and you produce such a beautiful sharp edge. Really something. Yeah, love that. And if you have one of those just set up at the end of the bench like I do, it's really easy just to nip over there and sort of just touch up any blade. So there we go. Anyway, I hope this helps. A bit slightly disjointed kind of video. I do apologise. Anyway, look after yourselves. See you soon. Cheers, folks. Bye.